My parents secretly charged $120,000 to my business credit card for my sister's world trip. She sent me a photo of my burning credit card saying, "Your account is empty now, so I set it on fire. I had so much fun with your card." I quickly reported it as fraud. When she got back from her trip, a huge surprise awaited her at the airport. My parents secretly charged my business credit card for Karen's world trip. She even sent me a photo of my scorched credit card with a caption, "Your account is empty now, so I set it on fire. I had so much fun with your card." I quickly reported it as fraud. When she returned from her trip, she got a huge surprise at the airport. I never thought I'd share a story like this, but here it is. My story of betrayal by my own parents. It all began with my younger sister Karen's graduation trip, a month-long tour of Europe that cost a jaw-dropping $120,000, all charged to my credit card. Reporting it as fraud has sparked a massive fallout in our family, but what choice did I have? Let me back up a bit. My name is Ryan, I'm 29, and my sister Karen is 23. She just graduated from college. While I've always been proud of her, this situation has left me feeling utterly betrayed. Our parents raised us in a very peculiar, wildly inconsistent way. I was always the responsible one, the dependable child who worked hard and built a life on my own terms. By 23, I was already financially independent, working in finance and proud of my career. Karen, on the other hand, was always the baby of the family, pampered and adored. Don't get me wrong, I love her, but it was obvious from the start she was the favorite. She never had to work a part-time job or help out around the house. She always had the latest gadgets, trendiest clothes, and the best of everything, while I focused on my own goals and tried not to let the favoritism get to me. Still, there were moments that stung. I vividly remember when I was 16. I'd spent months saving for a gaming console I'd been dreaming about, only to have my excitement crushed when my parents casually told me, "We already got one for Karen last week. You can share hers." I was devastated. I worked so hard and it felt like my efforts didn't even matter. I swallowed my disappointment and pretended to be happy for her, but it hurt. Fast forward to now. Karen recently graduated with a degree in communications, and I truly am proud of her. To celebrate, I even bought her a new laptop she'd been eyeing for months. A gesture I thought was thoughtful and generous. Then last week, my mom called, practically bursting with excitement about Karen's graduation present. A month-long trip across Europe. I initially thought it was a wonderful gesture, but then the bombshell dropped. My mom casually mentioned, "Oh, we used your credit card to book it all." For a moment, I thought I misheard her. "We needed the points to upgrade some flights and hotels. Don't worry, we'll pay you back," she added nonchalantly. I was stunned. When I finally found my voice, I asked, "How much did you spend?" Her answer hit me like a punch in the gut. $120,000. $115,000 charged to my credit card without my knowledge or permission. Trying to keep my cool, I said, "Mom, you can't just use my credit card without asking me. That's illegal, and $120,000 is a huge amount of money." But she brushed off my concerns as if it were nothing. "Oh, Ryan, don't be so dramatic. It's for your sister's graduation. Family looks out for each other, and we'll pay you back eventually." Her dismissive attitude made my blood boil. I pressed on, "Do you even realize how this affects me? My credit score, my credit limit, I might need that for emergencies. And most importantly, you've completely broken my trust." But she wasn't having it. "You've always been so selfish," she snapped. "Why can't you just be happy for your sister? This is her big moment, and your penny pinching is ruining it." They even called me selfish for being upset about an unauthorized $120,000 charge. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I ended the call, overwhelmed by anger, hurt, and disbelief. Over the next few days, I tried talking to my dad, hoping he'd be more reasonable, but he only echoed Mom's words, accusing me of overreacting and insisting I should support Karen. Meanwhile, Karen was completely oblivious to the situation. She was thrilled about the trip and kept thanking me for helping her graduate, as if I'd willingly funded her dream vacation. When I tried explaining what happened, it was like talking to a brick wall. I started to wonder if I was the crazy one. Realizing I had to take matters into my own hands, I called the credit card company to dispute the charges. Little did I know this decision would escalate everything even further. I soon discovered that my parents had used my credit card details, which I'd only shared for emergencies, to book the trip. According to the credit card company, it didn't technically qualify as fraud, because I had willingly given them my card information. Suddenly, I was left with a $120,000 debt, a maxed-out credit card, and a family that thought I was selfish for refusing to pay for my sister's extravagant vacation. The betrayal cut deep. The very people who were supposed to love and support me had put me in an impossible position. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to cancel the trip and end this madness, but another part was tempted to pay off the debt just to avoid the inevitable family drama. Still, $120,000 is astronomical, and letting this slide would only encourage more of the same in the future. I couldn't help but question myself. Am I overreacting? Should I swallow my pride, pay for the trip, and move on? Or should I stand my ground, even if it meant creating a permanent rift in my family? I felt utterly lost. Update 1. After sharing my story, the responses and advice I received were overwhelming. I can't thank everyone enough for their encouragement. Reading through the comments, I realized that my anger was completely justified. I felt violated, and I deserved to stand up for myself. With that clarity, I decided to take action. First, I called my credit card company again and provided more details, emphasizing that while my parents had my card information for emergencies, I never approved them using it for this purpose. After some back and forth, they agreed to investigate the charges as potential fraud. Next, I arranged a family Zoom call. I sent a group message to Karen and our parents, explaining that we needed to discuss the matter before I took further steps. I wanted to give them a chance to make things right. When the call began, I did my best to remain calm and laid out why their actions were unacceptable. I explained the legal implications, the damage to my trust, and the massive financial burden they placed on me. I told them the trip needed to be canceled immediately since I had already reported the charges as fraudulent. Their reaction was far from what I had hoped for. My parents were furious. They accused me of being overdramatic and ruining Karen's special moment. My mom even went as far as to say, "We raised you, clothed you, and put a roof over your head. The least you could do is help your sister have this once-in-a-lifetime experience." I took a deep breath and replied, "You chose to have children, and as parents it was your responsibility to provide for us. That doesn't give you the right to use my credit card without permission." At that point, Karen started crying. Between tears, she accused me of trying to ruin her graduation gift. "You've always been jealous of me," she sobbed. "Why can't you just be happy for me for once?" Her words stung, but they also steeled my resolve. "Karen," I said gently, trying to keep my voice steady, "I'm proud of you and I'm happy for your graduation. But this trip was booked illegally, using money taken without my consent. It's not okay, and it's not a gift from me." For the first time during the call, my usually quiet dad spoke up. "We didn't think it was a big deal," he said. "As a family, we've always had access to your card for emergencies. We thought this one time would be fine." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Dad, this wasn't an emergency, and $120,000 isn't a small sum. You can't just decide to spend that kind of money without consulting me." By the end of the call, Karen was still in tears, my parents were livid, and I was utterly drained. They insisted I was overreacting and promised to pay me back eventually, but they flat out refused to cancel the trip. After the call, I knew I had to take further steps. I reached out to a lawyer friend, who confirmed that what my parents did was illegal, and that I had every right to take legal action if I chose. Armed with this information, I went to the police to report the unauthorized credit card use. The officer I spoke with was sympathetic and took down every detail. He warned me that pressing charges could cause a permanent rift in my family, but I was well within my rights to proceed. At that moment I felt torn. I love my family deeply, but their actions were inexcusable. The thought of suing my own parents made me feel sick. Yet I knew that if I didn't stand up now, this behavior could continue in the future. For the time being, I decided to wait for the credit card company's investigation to conclude before making any final decisions. To protect myself, I also froze my credit to prevent further unauthorized use. This entire experience has been a real eye-opener. I always tried to be the peacemaker in my family, the one who smoothed things over and kept everyone happy, but in doing so, I allowed myself to be taken advantage of time and time again. As painful as this situation is, it feels empowering to finally stand up for myself and say, "No, this is not okay." Thank you to everyone who has offered advice and support. I'll provide another update once the credit card company's investigation is complete. Update 2. It's been several weeks since my last update, and so much has happened. I can't thank everyone enough for the continued support. It's been a beacon of light during this incredibly tough time. The good news? The credit card company finished its investigation and ruled in my favor. The unauthorized charges were reversed, and the $120,000 debt was wiped clean. Having that financial burden lifted feels like an enormous weight off my shoulders. But when it comes to my family, that's a whole different story. All hell broke loose once my parents and Karen discovered that disputing the charges had canceled her trip. My phone exploded with angry calls and messages. They were furious, blaming me for ruining Karen's life. My mom even left a harsh voicemail, calling me a selfish, ungrateful son. Then Karen took to social media, posting a heartfelt video about how her spiteful brother destroyed her dream graduation trip. The fallout was immediate. Friends and relatives started asking why I was treating Karen so poorly, and soon the story was spiraling out of control. I felt I had no choice but to set the record straight. I posted a calm, factual explanation of what had happened, detailing how my credit card was used without my permission, and how I tried to resolve it with the family before involving the credit card company. The reactions were mixed. Some people supported me and expressed disappointment in my parents' behavior, while others felt I should have just taken one for the team and let Karen have her trip. It was eye-opening to see how many people believe that committing fraud is acceptable if it's for family, which made me question the values I grew up with. A few days later, my Aunt Maria, my mom's sister, called me unexpectedly. She shared a perspective I'd never heard before. Apparently, my mother has a long history of financial irresponsibility and has taken advantage of family members in the past. Aunt Maria was sympathetic and urged me to stand firm. That conversation was a turning point. I realized this wasn't just a one-off incident. It was part of a larger pattern of behavior that had been enabled and excused for years. I knew then that I needed to set firm boundaries, not just for my own sake, but to break the cycle of financial exploitation. I made a difficult decision. I told my parents I wouldn't be interacting with them for the foreseeable future. I explained that I couldn't trust them right now and needed time to process everything that had happened. I also told Karen that, while I love her and am proud of her accomplishments, I needed some distance from her as well. As expected, the reaction was negative. My parents accused me of tearing the family apart, and Karen cried, saying I was punishing her for something she couldn't control. It was hard, but I stood my ground. To protect myself, I took several steps. I changed all my passwords, closed the credit card my parents had access to, and opened a new one with a different bank. I also started seeing a therapist to help me work through my emotions and establish healthier boundaries. One unexpected silver lining was the support I received from other family members. Aunt Maria and a few relatives reached out, showing that not everyone in my family agrees with my parents' actions. As for Karen's graduation trip, I've heard through the grapevine that my parents are still considering sending her somewhere. Part of me feels bad that she missed out on her Europe trip, but I remind myself that it was never my responsibility to foot that bill. Even now, I wrestle with feelings of guilt and doubt, wondering if I was too harsh. But then I remember the moment I discovered the unauthorized charges and the deep sense of betrayal I felt. That memory keeps me grounded and reassures me that I did the right thing by standing up for myself. This experience has been a painful but valuable lesson in self-respect and setting boundaries. I'm learning that love doesn't mean allowing yourself to be exploited, and that it's okay to say no, even to family. For now, I'm focused on healing and moving forward. If anything significant changes, I'll share another update. Update 3. It's been almost 2 months since my last update, so I wanted to share more about what's been happening during this challenging time. The support and advice I've received have been invaluable. Thank you all so much. On the legal front, after much thought and consultation with my lawyer, I decided not to press charges against my parents. That wasn't an easy decision, especially since many of you suggested a lawsuit. My attorney explained that since the credit card company reversed the charges, pursuing criminal action would be both expensive and difficult, with no guarantee of success. Instead, we sent my parents a formal cease and desist letter warning that any future use of my financial information would result in immediate legal action. On the family side, the no-contact period with my parents and Karen has been both enlightening and difficult. It's given me the space to reflect on our family dynamics and focus on my own well-being. Therapy has been incredibly helpful in processing my emotions and reinforcing the boundaries I've set. About a month into the no-contact period, I received an unexpected email from Karen. Unlike her earlier emotional outbursts, this message was thoughtful and mature. She admitted that she'd been reflecting on everything and finally understood how wrong our parents' actions were. She apologized for her initial reaction and for not standing up for me, and even acknowledged the favoritism she'd benefited from over the years. She'd been too comfortable and too scared to challenge it. I felt cautiously optimistic after reading her email, and we eventually had a few phone conversations. I can tell she's genuinely trying to see my perspective. Karen even shared some of her own experiences with our parents' financial carelessness, things she'd kept hidden before. It seems the canceled Europe trip was a wake-up call for her too. Meanwhile, my parents have been far less willing to take responsibility. From guilt-tripping emails to angry voicemails, they've tried everything to get me to re-engage. One day, my mom even showed up at my apartment unannounced, causing a scene in the hallway. It was tough, but I stood my ground and avoided any interaction. The dynamics within our extended family have been mixed. Some relatives, like Aunt Maria, have been incredibly supportive. She's become a true ally and friend throughout this ordeal. Others, however, have clung to the old family narrative, urging me to reconcile for the sake of peace and my mental health. I've even had to cut ties with a few relatives because of that pressure. Despite the challenges, there have been unexpected personal gains. The time and energy I once devoted to managing family drama are now being redirected toward my own life and goals. I've picked up photography as a new hobby, spent more time with friends who respect my boundaries, and made significant financial decisions. I'm building a stronger emergency fund and contributing more to my retirement savings. This whole experience has underscored the importance of financial independence and stability. Last week, I even received a promotion at work along with a substantial raise. In the past, I might have felt obligated to share that news with my family or offer financial help, but this time I celebrated privately with close friends, proud of my achievements and free from guilt. Regarding Karen's graduation trip, Aunt Maria told me that my parents eventually sent her on a tour of California. From what I've heard, she had a great time. While I'm happy she got to celebrate in some way, I remind myself that it was never my responsibility to provide that for her. Looking ahead, I remain cautious yet somewhat optimistic. I've decided to keep no contact with my parents for at least 3 more months. I need more time to heal and determine if they can respect the boundaries I've set with Karen. I'm slowly rebuilding our relationship with her, but I'm proceeding carefully and keeping clear limits. This whole ordeal has taught me a lot about the true meaning of family. I now understand that family isn't just about blood ties. It's about love, respect, and genuine support. The friends and relatives who have stood by me through this ordeal have shown me what real family looks like. Financially, I've become much more vigilant. Although I've always been careful with money, this experience has made me extra cautious. I've added additional security measures to all my accounts and have become more protective of my financial information, even around relatives. Missing family gatherings because of the no-contact policy sometimes leaves me feeling uncertain and sad. Mother's Day was particularly tough, but I know this distance is essential for my mental health and personal growth. One unexpected outcome is that I've started helping friends who are dealing with similar issues with financially reckless relatives. Many people have reached out for advice on setting boundaries, and being able to guide others through these challenges has been incredibly rewarding. As for my parents, Aunt Maria mentioned they're now struggling financially. Apparently, they were relying on my credit for purposes beyond Karen's trip, which has created tension between them. My dad blames my mom for going too far with the credit card. While I do feel some sympathy for their situation, I remind myself that their poor financial decisions aren't my responsibility to fix. Karen has shared that our parents still don't understand why I reacted so strongly. She claims their actions were just normal family behavior. That ignorance frustrates me, but it also reaffirms that I made the right decision to distance myself. Reflecting on my childhood and early adulthood, I'm beginning to recognize patterns of financial and emotional control that I had once normalized. While this journey has been painful, it's also been liberating. I'm learning to validate my own feelings and experiences without needing my parents' approval. On a personal note, I've recently started dating again after so much family drama. I was hesitant to open up, but I've met someone who truly understands my situation. It's still early, but it feels amazing to build a relationship with someone who respects my values and boundaries. I'm even considering a big life change, pursuing a master's degree, something I once held back on out of fear it would limit my ability to support my family financially. Now I'm seriously researching programs and thinking about taking that leap. Making decisions based solely on what's best for me feels incredibly empowering. If anything else significant happens with my family, I'll be sure to share another update for fresh starts and new chapters. As I write this update, I'm struck by how much has changed over the past few months. The shock and anger I once felt have gradually transformed into a calm, determined focus. I'm no longer just reacting to my family's behavior. I'm actively building the life I want. To anyone dealing with similar family issues, know this: it gets better. Setting boundaries is tough, and yes, there will be backlash, but your mental health, financial security, and overall well-being are worth protecting. I truly appreciate all the support and guidance you've given me along the way. It's been a lifeline. I'm not entirely sure what the future holds for my relationship with my sister and parents, but I do know I'll be okay. Right now I feel stronger, more confident, and ready to face whatever comes next. If any significant changes occur, I'll be sure to update you all. For now, I'm focused on moving forward and surrounding myself with supportive people. It's been 6 months since my last update, and I have some major news to share. I've been accepted into a master's program in financial technology at a university about 3 hours away from my current home. This 2-year program aligns perfectly with my professional goals, and I'll be starting this fall. I'm equal parts excited and nervous about this new chapter. Deciding to pursue this degree wasn't easy. It means leaving my job, relocating, and taking on some student debt. But it's also an investment in my future, and a long-held dream coming true. For years I held myself back, constantly worrying about how my choices might affect my family. Now it feels incredibly liberating to make decisions based solely on what's best for me. Family dynamics have shifted in unexpected ways. 2 months ago, I officially ended the no-contact period with my parents and agreed to attend a family therapy session with them, led by a professional therapist. I was defensive and unsure of what to expect when my parents arrived, still insisting they had done nothing wrong. However, as the session unfolded, some startling truths emerged. I learned that my dad had been hiding a significant financial loss, a poor investment he made, which had forced them to use my credit card in a desperate bid to cover their troubles. This revelation brought tears, accusations, and a flood of emotions. For the first time, both my parents began to understand the gravity of their actions. With the therapist's guidance, we started to address these issues, and by the end of the session, both had offered sincere apologies, a moment I never thought I'd witness. We've now agreed to continue monthly therapy sessions, though I'm still keeping strict boundaries and taking things slowly. I feel cautiously hopeful about rebuilding a healthier relationship. Karen, too, has grown significantly. She recently moved into her own apartment and started working full-time as she pursues financial independence. Our conversations have become more frequent and genuine. I'm finally getting to know her as the adult she's become. She's even asked for advice on saving and budgeting, which is a huge step forward in our relationship. On a personal note, the relationship I mentioned in my last update has blossomed into something truly special. Although we'll be navigating long distance for a while, Lisa has been incredibly supportive of my decision to go back to school. Her own experiences with setting family boundaries have given her valuable insights, and she's been a real source of strength. Financially, I'm in a much better place now. Thanks to all the advice and encouragement I received, I was able to offset some of the costs of graduate school and save enough for my move. I've also taken extra precautions with my financial information. Recently, I even had to say no to a distant relative who tried to guilt-trip me into co-signing a loan. Standing firm on my boundaries felt incredibly empowering. Reflecting on that shocking phone call about the credit card charges, I can hardly believe how far I've come. The hurt and anger have largely been replaced by a sense of empowerment and self-assurance. This journey has taught me invaluable lessons about family boundaries and self-respect. I now understand that true family, whether by blood or by choice, is about love, respect, and genuine support. It's not only okay but necessary to prioritize your own well-being. To everyone following my story and offering encouragement, thank you. Your support has been a guiding light through some of the toughest moments of my life. For anyone facing similar conflicts, remember that setting boundaries is hard, and there may be backlash, but your mental health, finances, and personal space are worth defending. As I pack up my apartment and prepare for this exciting new phase, I feel a renewed sense of hope and possibility that I haven't felt in years. I'm proud of the progress I've made, and I'm eager to see what the future holds. I'll be busy with my move and starting school, so there might be a while before my next update. But I'll always be grateful for the guidance and strength this community has given me. Here's to fresh starts, hard-earned wisdom, and the courage to create the life we truly want.